Of course, you know the name. Cristiano Ronaldo. It's a name that basically defines an era of football. But the story of the man behind the name, the incredible forces that shaped him, and the absolute empire he's built, well, that's even more remarkable than any goal he's ever scored. So let's dive in.
Okay, so you see this number, 100 crores. In English, that's 1 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That is more people than the entire population of North and South America combined. And that's how many followers Cristiano Ronaldo has across social media. He is by far the most followed person on the entire planet. His influence isn't just big, it's on a scale we've never seen before. And as we're about to see, that influence has very real consequences.
You know, sometimes the biggest tidal waves start with the smallest ripple. In this case, it was a single word. Agua. That's it. It's the Portuguese word for water. And that one word, spoken at a press conference, was enough to send massive shockwaves through the financial world.
So, picture this. It's the 2021 European Championship. Ronaldo, who is, a total health nut, sits down for a press conference. In front of him are 2 bottles of Coca-Cola, one of the tournament's main sponsors. He just pushes them aside, holds up his own bottle of water, and says that one word, agua. And the result? Coca-Cola's market value dropped by $4 billion, just like that. That, right there, is the insane power of the CR7 brand. Okay, so that's a pretty wild example, right? But it really begs the question, just how deep does this influence go? Well, we're about to see how he's completely rewritten the rulebook for what it means to be a modern superstar, turning pure fandom into a massive economic force. And that influence, it translates directly into cold, hard cash. I mean, just look at this table. For a single sponsored post on Instagram, he's pulling in nearly 28 crore rupees. He's at the very top of the food chain here, making more than other global giants like Lionel Messi, Selena Gomez, and The Rock. It's just a completely different level.
And this isn't just about online clicks, it's about real, tangible devotion. Remember when he made his big return to Manchester United in 2021? The hype was absolutely off the charts. In the first 12 hours, just 12 hours, they sold over 400,000 of his number 7 jerseys. That didn't just break the record. It completely shattered the previous record set by other huge stars like Messi. It was an absolute frenzy.
But you know, with that kind of global influence comes massive expectations. And when those expectations aren't met, well, things can get messy. Take this situation in South Korea. He was advertised to play in a friendly match, but he ended up staying on the bench the whole time. The fans felt so betrayed, we're talking 65,000 of them, that they actually filed a lawsuit against the organizers. And they won. It just goes to show you, people weren't just paying to see the team, they were paying to see him.
So we've seen the global icon. But to really get who this guy is, to understand the man at the center of this storm, we have to rewind, way back. Because that fire, that relentless drive you see on the pitch, that didn't come from a fancy training ground. It was forged in some really, really tough times.
I mean, the contrast is just mind-blowing. Today, he's a billionaire with a fleet of supercars. But back then, as a young, hungry kid at the football academy in Lisbon, he and his friends would literally wait by the back of a McDonald's, just hoping a kind worker named Edna would give them some leftover burgers. It's just an unbelievable journey.
Even his name has a pretty unique backstory. Cristiano was his mom's pick, but Ronaldo, that actually came from his dad, who, believe it or not, was a big fan of Ronald Reagan, the actor who became a US president.
And things were so incredibly tough for his family. They were living in extreme poverty. His dad was battling alcoholism, and his mom, Dolores, was already trying to raise 3 other kids. She's been open about the fact that she actually considered not going through with the pregnancy. It's just, wow, he was so close to not even being here, a story that was almost never told. His teenage years were just one huge challenge after another. I mean, try to imagine this. At just 11 years old, he leaves his family, his home on the island of Madeira, everything he knows, to move nearly 1,000 kilometers away to an academy in Lisbon. By 14, he's quit school, with his mom's blessing, to bet everything on football. And then at 15, boom, he gets diagnosed with a racing heart condition that needs career-threatening surgery. His entire dream could have ended right there. So his rise to the top was just astronomical. But as we all know, fame on that scale, it's a double-edged sword. It always comes with a price. And for Ronaldo, that price has included some really serious off-the-field controversies and major legal battles. First up, there was the big tax issue in Spain. The authorities there accused him of evading a massive amount of money, 14.7 million euros, in taxes between 2011 and 2014, all of it tied to his earnings from his lucrative image rights. So what happened? Well, in the end, he received a 2-year suspended sentence, which is key because it means he didn't actually have to go to prison. But he did have to pay a huge fine. We're talking almost 19 million euros to get the whole thing settled.
But around that same time, an even bigger, much more personal storm was gathering. A sexual assault allegation from 2009, which took place in Las Vegas, suddenly resurfaced. This led to the police reopening the entire case, and it became this massive, global story, something Ronaldo himself has said was the most difficult moment of his life.
Okay, so this is a really complex one, and it's important to understand both sides of the story. On one side, you have Catherine Mayorga's claim. She alleged she was sexually assaulted and then felt pressured to sign a non-disclosure agreement in exchange for a $375,000 settlement. On the other side, you have Ronaldo's defense, which has never wavered. He's always maintained the encounter was consensual, and that the settlement wasn't an admission of guilt, but a strategic move to stop a media circus before it could begin.
So after years of legal back and forth, here's where it all landed. A U.S. judge ultimately dismissed the case against him. The official ruling cited that there wasn't enough evidence to move forward with criminal charges, and it also upheld the validity of that original settlement agreement they had signed back in 2010.
All right, so we've talked about the football. We've touched on the controversies, but there's this whole other side to Ronaldo that was being built this entire time. Ronaldo, the savvy businessman. The guy was thinking way ahead, meticulously building a global empire that was designed to last long after he hung up his boots.
And honestly, his business genius showed up really early, especially with how he handled his image rights. It's pretty brilliant when you break it down. First, back in 2009, he negotiates a 60-40 revenue split with Real Madrid, which was way better than the standard 50-50. Then, he ups his share even more later on. But the real masterstroke? In 2015, he sells his rights to a Singaporean billionaire, Peter Lim, with a specific goal of exploding the CR7 brand across Asia. Just a brilliant, forward-thinking move.
And as social media, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. It is not just a feed of action shots from his games. As you can see right here, it's a very deliberate, carefully curated mix. A huge chunk of it is about his luxury lifestyle, his fitness, things that appeal to way more people than just football fans. He's selling an aspirational lifestyle, and that makes his brand incredibly valuable.
And he's taken that massive brand value and channeled it into a whole diverse range of businesses. We're talking Bastana CR7 hotels, CR7 fitness gyms, his own brand of mineral water called Ursu 9, and even hair transplant clinics. And of course, all the fashion stuff like underwear, footwear, and perfumes. He's basically built an entire ecosystem around that CR7 identity. So when you step back and you put it all together, the player, the influencer, the businessman, what does it all add up to? What is Cristiano Ronaldo's real enduring legacy? So I'll leave you with this question. What is his true legacy? Is he the ultimate athlete defined simply by his goals and his trophies? Or is he the world's first true global super influencer, someone whose power went way beyond the sports world? Or maybe, just maybe, his greatest achievement is the business empire he built, creating a whole new playbook for what athletes can achieve. You know, perhaps the real answer is that he managed to be all three at once.